Hi everyone, welcome to this second video about Git of this week. And in this video I want to talk about working with GitHub. You might know GitHub. It's the website where the content of the module is located, the HTML CSS module. So this is GitHub, and what GitHub does is it contains Git repositories. So we're here looking at the online version of a Git repository called HTML CSS. And probably this Git repository, just like our Git repository from the last video, it was once made on someone's computer, and then this person uploaded it to GitHub. So in this video I want to explain a bit what GitHub is, and I also want to show how we can download the HTML CSS GitHub repository and how we can upload our own Git repository to GitHub. So first of all, I think everybody already has a GitHub account. If you don't have a GitHub account yet, then make sure to do that first. I think you can just go to github.com and then follow the sign up process. Once you have an account, the first thing we have to do to be able to interact with GitHub is to make sure that GitHub knows that it's us. And because we communicate with GitHub over SSH, this is probably something you've read about already in your reading material. It's not something very important to remember, but it's a certain secure way to communicate with a service like GitHub, and to set up that GitHub knows who we are, that it can link my computer or your computer to your account. We need to do some things. So for that, we first start by opening the terminal, or on Windows, Git bash. As always, I think every video I started with opening the terminal. It's becoming a good habit. Then I'm just going to follow what the reading material also suggests. So maybe you've already done this, maybe you run into some trouble. I just want to show it again because it's very important, because without doing this, you're not going to be able to make the homework or to continue with using GitHub. And I'm talking here about how to generate an SSH key. So I'm going to click on this link, and then here it tells me how to open an SSH key. So you open git bash, and then you paste the following in your command line. So I do that as well, and then here I have to fill in my email address. And this is the email address you also use for your GitHub account, as far as I'm aware, but maybe this is not even necessary. Either way, you fill here in the email address, and then you press enter. And then here you have to fill in a file name. For this, you don't fill in any name, you just press enter. And if it asks something else, you also just press enter again. So you basically just keep pressing enter until it's finished and you just see an empty command line entry again. I'm not gonna save it because I already have this file, so otherwise it would override it and it would be a bit annoying for me. But what in the end, it will generate a key for you. Then our next step is to go to GitHub, and we go back to the reading material and we click on adding SSH key to GitHub. This is a YouTube video. Okay, we're not gonna watch I'm not gonna let you watch a YouTube video in a YouTube video. So I will just show you, of course. So when you are on GitHub, then in the top right corner, there's your avatar, and you can click on the little drop-down menu and click on settings. Then in settings, we go to SSH and GPG keys, the menu item on the left. And then here we have to click on new SSH key. What we then can do is type a title here. So I often just use a descriptive name of my device. So I would call this laptop. And then you have to paste the key we just generated. You have to paste it here. For that, what you can do is you can write cat and then .sh/id.rsa.pop. So cat, I'm not sure if I showed it in the command line video, but cat displays the content of a file. So in this case, cat is going to display the content of this file of id_rs_a.pub in the folder .ssh. Make sure to run this from your home directory. So basically when you just start your terminal to then run it. And then we get this really long sequence of numbers and letters. This already suggests that it's something with security or cryptography. I can't say that word. So we copy this, and for that you have to select it and then Ctrl+C. Then we paste it in the text field on GitHub, and we say add SSH key. I'm not going to do that because I already added it, but you're going to click on add SSH key, and then it should work. So then we can go back to the HTML CSS module. And then you might have already noticed this once, that there's this big green button here on the right. And this big green button, it says clone or download. And this clone, that's what we are looking for. This is a new command I'm going to explain you about Git. So if you go to the command line, I'm going to type clear to empty everything. And then here I can say git clone. And so what git clone does is that it clones something, it downloads a repository from another place, it downloads it to your PC. And git clone only works when there is a repository somewhere else. You can't use git clone on an empty repository. But in that sense, it's a bit like git init, but git init, it creates a new repository, an empty new repository. Git clone, it takes an existing repository and puts it on your PC. So for that we have to type git clone, and then we use the URL we just copied from the GitHub website. Oh, I think I accidentally pressed enter. Clear, so I do git clone, then I go to the green button, I copy this URL, or I click this button, then here I say paste. But maybe people who are paying attention already saw it, I'm still in my home directory, so it's not so smart to do it here. So I do Ctrl+C or Command+C on Mac, and I first go into my Hack Your Future directory. Then I can press arrow up. Oh no, sorry, no, never mind that. I can just type git clone, and then paste the URL, but now I accidentally copied the home directory character, but happily it went wrong. So I just again, sorry, this is not going very smooth. I copy the URL, I say git clone, and then paste. So if I now press enter, Git is going to create a directory called html-css in the Hack Your Future folder, and it's going to download the whole repository there. You also see this takes a little bit of time because it needs to download some files. If we now do ls, we see that there is indeed an HTML CSS folder. If we go into the HTML CSS folder, we immediately see that there's a master is now added to the file path. So we are now also aware this is a Git repository. We are currently in a Git repository. And you might remember from the last video that in a Git repository we can run git status to see what the status is. And again, we get a status, so this means we are in a Git repository. So if you didn't do this yet, then maybe pause the video now and try this out by generating your SSH key and adding it to GitHub, and then cloning the HTML CSS repository, and make sure that it works. If you get an error in any of these steps, then make sure to tell this on Slack. Then one of the mentors or I, if I'm online, I can try to help you, because it's very important that this works in the end. All right, to continue. So we have now the HTML CSS Git repository on our PC. So yeah, if we say ls, we see here week 0, week 1, week 2, week 3, just like in the repository online, week 0, week 1, week 2, week 3. If I now open the readme.md, or maybe I just open Visual Studio Code like we used to, and then there's this readme.md. And a little bit of side note, this is a markdown file when it's .md. And so this readme.md, maybe you see it already. This file is also what you see here. It also says here readme.md. If you have a readme.md in your repository, then GitHub will show it automatically here on the homepage of your repository. And this is what Hack Your Future uses to write all the content for the module. If we now change this title, so that currently the title is Module 1, HTML, CSS, and Git, and we say, we make this Hello World. So we change this title, I save the file. If I now go to the command line and I say git status, then we see that this file is modified. Then, just like the last video, I can say git add dot and then git status, and then it has added this file to the stage. It staged this file, so it's ready to be committed. So I can say git commit m changed the title of the readme. If I commit this, do you now think it also changes it on GitHub? Because now there's no changes anymore here. But you already see it here. But let's check it first. If I now refresh the page here, no, the title is still Module 1, HTML, CSS, and Git. But what we see here when I run git status, it says your branch is ahead of origin master by 1 commit. So here's this branch thing again. And this branch is talking about the master, because we are currently on the branch master. And this, what we are looking at here, it's also the branch master. If I click on this drop down, we see there's a lot of other branches, but these are not relevant for now. And it says, your branch is ahead of origin/master by 1 commit. So what is origin/master? And in Git, we use origin. We often use this to refer to the remote location of the repository. So the online version of the repository. So what this message is saying is that our master, the master branch on our PC, it is ahead. It has 1 more commit than the master branch, which is on the online version, which is on GitHub. So it detected that we have 1 more commit than the repository on GitHub. And then it also says use git push to publish your local commits. So I can say git push, and then this title would be changed. So I do that, but no, there's an error. Protected branch, update failed. You are not authorized to push this branch. Interesting. So Git here tried to push this commit to GitHub, but it got back the error that my account is not allowed to update this repository. And this is also true. This is not my repository. This is the repository of Hack Your Future. And Hack Your Future did not give me permission to just change this repository. That would also be a bit ridiculous if I could just change this title to something else. So I can't push that here. Sorry, and I didn't even explain git push. So what git push does is that it uploads the commits you made on your PC. It uploads it to GitHub, to an online location. It could also be another service. There are multiple services like GitHub. But in this case, it uploads it to GitHub. So we can't do that for the HTML, CSS repository. But what if we try it with the other repository we created? So I now go 1 folder up, back to my Hack Your Future folder, and I say ls, and then I see the git demo folder. So here I could go into the git demo folder. This is the repository we created in the previous video. If I say git status here, it says there's nothing to commit. If I say ls, there's an index.html. Super. So let's say I want to add this to GitHub. To do this, my first step would be to go to GitHub, because I need to create a repository here. And for that, I use the plus icon, which is in the top right of the page. There I say new repository. And then I give it a name. I say git demo. A description, it's optional, so I'm going to leave it empty. Public or private. If you want everybody to be able to see your repository, you make it public. If you just want it for yourself, or you want to say to specific people they can see it, then you make it private. So I say public because I don't mind about this repository. Then I have the option to initialize this repository with a readme. What GitHub then does is it will automatically create a readme markdown file in your repository, and it will also create a first commit. In my case, the repository, it already has 3 commits, I think. It even has 4 commits. So if GitHub now also makes a repository with 1 commit, then this is not going to work, because then I can't add my commits there. So I should not check this option. I should leave it empty, and then GitHub will just create a completely empty repository so that I can push my repository there. And then it also explains, it explains how to create a new repository. That's not what I want to do. I want to push an existing repository from the command line. So it tells me exactly what to do. I have to copy this line. And here we see this word origin again. So what this line does, it tells Git where the online version is of my Git repository. So I basically tell to Git now, if you want to work with a remote Git repository, an online version of this Git repository, use this URL. So I execute that, and then it says git push. Oh, paste. So here's the git push, and then there's something else behind it. And this -u, it's important the first time you push your repository to GitHub. Because here no, I'm not going to try to explain this. Just make sure to copy this and use it to push your repository to GitHub. And there it goes, it starts doing things. So now what it did, it uploaded my 4 commits which I made. It now uploaded it to GitHub. So if I refresh this page, we also see it, index.html is here. And we see there's 4 commits, just like my repository which I have on my command line. And because this is my repository, I created this Git demo, I'm allowed to push to it. But if now one of you would also try to push to this Git demo repository, which is on my account, it would also give you an error and you're not allowed to do that. All right, so let's maybe open Visual Studio Code here. This is still the other Visual Studio Code, which I'm going to close. So now in the previous video, the thing we all the time did was git, well, you would change some files, then you would say git add and git commit with a commit message. Now we're going to add another command to this, because it's one you will also very often execute, that's git push. So sort of the flow is to, you work on something of a website, you change some files, then you add them to Git, you commit them, and then you either push them, or if you keep working on your website, you add some more things, you add them, you commit them, you change some more things, you add them, you commit them. And then in the end of the afternoon, when you are ready with working on what you were doing, you say git push, so that your files are not just located on your laptop, but that they are also online available in case your laptop breaks down or something, or if your colleagues need to have the files, you can say git push, and then it will be uploaded to GitHub. So that's also what we can do now to just show this. I can now edit this HTML file. I can maybe add a paragraph and say, this will be a terrific website. So when I save this file and then I run git status, it tells me index.html is modified. So I say git add index.html, then git commit added a paragraph to the home page. If we now say git status, then we see, just like the HTML CSS repository, Git now detected that my version of this repository, it has 1 commit more than the version which is online. So my master branch is ahead of the master branch online. So to solve that, or to To upload what I did, I can say git push. But I could also make another commit. So I could, for example, create a readme here. readme.md. And then I say repository of a terrific website. Welcome. If I save this file and I say git status, then Git tells me there's a new file. So I have to git edit. I can say git add dot to just add all the files. Then git commit add a readme. If I now say git status, then git detects there's 2 commits which have to be uploaded. So I can do that. I can say git push. Then I push these 2 commits to the online version of this repository. Then when this is done, I can go to GitHub. And if I refresh the page here, then we also see there's now 6 commits and the readme is there and the readme is also shown here. So that's nice. So that's how you can upload your commits to GitHub, and that's also how you can sort of share it with other people, because they can clone this repository and also start working with the code. But then what if somebody else changes something in the code and they push it? So there's maybe a 7th commit here, and I now also want this commit on my computer. How do I do that then? Do I have to make a new clone? That would be a bit cumbersome. So let's emulate this. I'm just gonna, on GitHub, you can also edit files. So I'm gonna edit the file here and I will act like I'm another person. So maybe this person was already working on the footer and he made it a nice footer. He added a footer and he's gonna commit this. So of course, this is not my account doing this, but because I am doing this online, when I commit this, this commit will not be available on my computer yet. So now here it says 7 commits, but if I go to my version of the repository, which is on my computer, and I say git log, we can still count, have to make it a bit bigger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 files, commits instead of 7. And if I say git status, it also doesn't tell me there's a commit waiting for me. So something I can do then, I just know, like, okay, there's a new commit here, I can see it. Or it's just good to do this always before you start working on, before you continue working on your website, when you work together with someone, it's always good to say git pull. In git pull, it will download all the new commits which are on GitHub. It will download them and it will apply them, add them to your own commits, which you have on your local version. So I say git pull, and then it tells me, well, downloading some things, and then index.html, it has 5 new lines. And there's 1 line deleted, or 4 new lines and 1 line deleted. And then I can wonder, like, okay, what happened? I can say git log, and it says added a footer. So somebody added a footer. I can use git log -p to see what was actually added. And there I see, a footer has been added. Somebody did something with the closing HTML tag, but it looks exactly the same, so probably nothing changed with that. But so git pull is also something you have to add to your commands, which you use often. And git pull downloads commits from a remote / online repository. And git push uploads commits to a remote or online repository. So besides the git add and git commit, the git push and git pull are also quite important. And then this is basically everything you need to start working together on a project. Of course, if I would now want to work together with somebody on this project, I would have to give permission to this person to also be able to commit and to push to this repository. For that, you can go to settings, and then to manage access. And then here, based on a GitHub username, I can add someone by typing the GitHub username here, and I can invite them to also work on this Git repository. So, concluding, we learned some new things. We have the Git push to upload commits to an online repository, Git pull to download things, and another new one is Git clone to download an existing online repository. It's feeling I read this wrong. Existing. To your PC. And this is a bit like Git init, except that it's for an existing repository. So maybe it's good to, after this video, try this out. You can make a repository in GitHub. You can then either add a readme file there and then clone it to your PC, or you could create a Git init. With Git init, you could create a repository on your PC and then push this repository to GitHub. Maybe if you are working with somebody else, another classmate of you, you could also invite this person to collaborate on your repository and make some commits and pull this and then see what happens. Also, it might be that you get stuck, that maybe something happens and you don't know how to continue. This is because there are some more commands we need to learn. But these commands I will cover in another video, I think next week. But for now, to do some basic operations with Git on your PC and also to interact with GitHub, these are all the commands you need. Also in the description of the video, I will link to a page with these explanations of the different commands so that you can easily look them up. Then with that, I would like to close this video. Thanks for watching. And if there are any questions about the video, make sure to post them on Slack or to save them for the question hour on Sunday. See you.